Every day, the world offers you something to react to: a comment, a delay, a criticism, a disappointment, a misunderstanding, a person who does not see your value, a situation that does not follow your plan. Most people believe that time is their most valuable resource, but that is not entirely true. Time only becomes meaningful when it is paired with attention. You can have hours available in your day, yet accomplish nothing if your attention is constantly being stolen. Every distraction, every unnecessary argument, every negative comment, and every meaningless piece of information competes for your focus. Once your attention is captured, your thoughts begin to revolve around it, your emotions become attached to it, and before you realize it, something insignificant has occupied your entire day. This is why protecting your attention is one of the greatest forms of self-discipline. Whatever you repeatedly focus on eventually shapes your mind, influences your decisions, and determines the direction of your life. Many people wake up each morning without deciding where their attention should go. Instead, they allow the world to decide for them. A notification appears, and they immediately reach for their phone. Someone shares a negative opinion, and they spend hours replaying those words in their mind. A stranger criticizes them, and they feel compelled to defend themselves. An unexpected inconvenience occurs, and their entire mood changes. They move from one distraction to another, believing they are responding to life, when in reality they are simply reacting to whatever demands their attention the loudest. A peaceful mind cannot exist when attention is constantly scattered across countless unnecessary concerns. Imagine your attention as a garden. Whatever you water will continue to grow. If you constantly water resentment, resentment becomes stronger. If you repeatedly feed anxiety, anxiety begins to dominate your thinking. If you give endless attention to comparison, you will always feel that someone else's life is better than yours. The mind does not carefully separate useful thoughts from harmful ones. It strengthens whatever receives your focus. This is why even small daily habits of attention have enormous consequences over time. There are people who spend years thinking about a single insult. They replay one conversation over and over until it becomes part of their identity. Meanwhile, the person who spoke those words has likely forgotten the entire encounter. This is the hidden cost of unguarded attention. You continue carrying a burden that no longer exists outside your own mind. The event itself lasted only a few seconds, but your attention extends its life for months or even years. Not every problem deserves to become your personal struggle. Some situations resolve themselves without your involvement. Some opinions deserve to remain unanswered. Some misunderstandings are not worth correcting. The desire to respond to everything comes from believing that every challenge requires your participation. In reality, wisdom often means recognizing what can safely be ignored. Every unnecessary reaction drains energy that could have been invested in something meaningful. People often underestimate how much their environment influences their attention. The conversations you participate in, the content you consume, and the people you surround yourself with all compete for space inside your mind. If your days are filled with constant negativity, gossip, outrage, and comparison, your thoughts will naturally reflect those influences. A disciplined person understands that protecting attention sometimes requires creating distance from environments that repeatedly disturb inner peace. There will always be people seeking your attention. Some want your approval. Some want your reaction. Some simply want to pull you into conflicts that have nothing to do with your purpose. Every time you allow yourself to be distracted, you silently postpone your own growth. Your goals become secondary, while someone else's drama becomes your priority. The strongest individuals understand that attention is a choice, not an obligation. Before giving your energy to any situation, ask yourself whether it deserves a place in your mind. Will thinking about it improve your character? Will reacting to it move your life forward? Will it matter after enough time has passed? Most distractions lose their importance the moment they are examined honestly. By refusing to feed them with attention, you prevent them from growing into unnecessary burdens that occupy your thoughts and consume your peace. Every moment of your life presents a choice. You may not be able to choose every circumstance that arrives at your door, but you always have the opportunity to choose how you respond. This is where true strength begins. Most people believe their emotions are controlled by the outside world. They think another person's words caused their anger, a difficult situation created their frustration, or an unexpected failure stole their confidence. In reality, these events only present a stimulus. The reaction that follows is shaped by the habits of the mind. When you understand this, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin recognizing that your response is your greatest source of power. Consider how often people surrender their peace without realizing it. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and irritation follows them for the rest of the day. A coworker offers criticism, and they replay the conversation repeatedly in their minds. A friend forgets to reply to a message, and assumptions begin to grow. Nothing external continues happening, yet the mind keeps producing suffering because it has become attached to a reaction. The event may last only a few seconds, but the emotional response can continue for hours, days, or even years. This is not because the event is powerful. It is because the reaction has been left unexamined. The mind naturally seeks immediate responses. It wants to defend itself, explain itself, or fight against discomfort as quickly as possible. This instinct once helped human beings survive physical danger, but in modern life, many threats exist only in the form of words, opinions, or temporary inconveniences. Responding to these situations with the same urgency often creates unnecessary conflict. A disciplined person learns to pause before acting. That pause may last only a few seconds, but within those seconds lies the difference between wisdom and regret. Emotions themselves are not enemies. Anger, fear, disappointment, and sadness all carry information. They reveal what matters to you, what challenges you, and where your attachments exist. Problems arise when emotions become commanders instead of messengers. When anger gives every order, relationships suffer. When fear controls every decision, opportunities disappear. When pride dictates every response, learning becomes impossible. A calm mind allows emotions to speak without allowing them to take control. One of the greatest forms of self-mastery is recognizing the difference between feeling an emotion and becoming that emotion. You may feel anger without becoming an angry person. You may experience disappointment without allowing disappointment to define your day. You may encounter fear without letting fear decide your future. This distinction creates freedom. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin observing your own mind with curiosity. You notice thoughts appearing without believing. Every one of them deserves action. Many conflicts become larger simply because people react too quickly. A harsh comment receives another harsh comment in return. A misunderstanding becomes an argument because neither person pauses long enough to seek clarity. Pride encourages immediate retaliation, while wisdom encourages reflection. Often the strongest response is not the fastest one. Silence can reveal more strength than a lengthy defense. Patience can solve problems that aggression only intensifies. Training your reactions requires consistent practice. Small inconveniences become opportunities rather than interruptions. Waiting in a long line becomes an exercise in patience. Receiving criticism becomes an opportunity to separate useful feedback from unnecessary negativity. Facing disappointment becomes a chance to strengthen resilience instead of feeding frustration. Every ordinary challenge becomes part of your mental training, shaping habits that prepare you for greater difficulties in the future. When your reactions become intentional instead of automatic, life begins to change in subtle but powerful ways. You stop giving strangers control over your emotions. You stop allowing temporary setbacks to define your confidence. You stop treating every disagreement as a personal attack. Instead, you respond with clarity rather than impulse, patience rather than frustration, and understanding rather than assumption. The world around you may remain unpredictable, but your inner world becomes increasingly steady because your greatest source of power no longer depends on circumstances beyond your control. One of the greatest sources of unnecessary suffering is the constant need to defend the ego. People feel compelled to respond to every criticism, correct every misunderstanding, and prove themselves in every disagreement. They believe that if they remain silent, they appear weak, or if they walk away, they have somehow lost. Yet much of this struggle has very little to do with truth and everything to do with pride. The ego constantly whispers that every challenge must be answered, every opinion must be corrected, and every disagreement must end in victory. But peace follows a different path. Peace asks a much simpler question. Is this worth the cost of your inner calm? Not every argument deserves your participation. Many conversations are not genuine searches for understanding. They are competitions where each person is waiting for the other to stop speaking rather than truly listening. In such situations, no amount of explanation will change the outcome because the goal is not wisdom but validation. The more energy you invest, the deeper you become trapped in a cycle of frustration. Recognizing this is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of maturity. You begin to understand that preserving your peace is often far more valuable than proving a point. The desire to always be right creates invisible chains. It keeps your mind attached to conflicts long after they have ended. You replay conversations, imagine better responses, and wonder how you could have convinced the other person. Hours pass, sometimes even days, while your thoughts remain occupied by a disagreement that has already happened. Meanwhile, your attention is pulled away from your goals, your relationships, and your own growth. The argument may have ended externally, but internally it continues because the ego refuses to let go. Many people mistake silence for surrender. They assume that choosing not to argue means accepting defeat. In reality, silence often requires far greater discipline than speaking. It takes strength to remain calm when someone insults you. It takes confidence to avoid explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. It takes wisdom to recognize that your value does not increase simply because someone else finally agrees with you. A person who knows their own character does not need constant confirmation from others. Ego is deeply connected to identity. When someone questions your ideas, your abilities, or your decisions, the ego interprets it as an attack on who you are. This is why small disagreements often produce surprisingly intense emotions. Instead of seeing criticism as information, people experience it as a personal threat. Once this happens, curiosity disappears and defensiveness takes over. Growth becomes impossible because learning requires the willingness to admit that there may still be something to understand. Choosing peace over ego does not mean allowing others to disrespect you without boundaries. It does not mean accepting injustice or remaining silent in situations that require courage. There are moments when speaking firmly is necessary, when protecting yourself or others demands action. The difference lies in the intention behind your response. Are you speaking because wisdom requires it, or because your pride feels wounded? Are you seeking resolution, or simply trying to satisfy the need to appear superior? These questions reveal whether your actions are guided by clarity or by ego. A calm person understands that every battle has a price. Even if you win the argument, you may lose your peace. Even if you convince someone that you are right, you may spend the rest of the day emotionally exhausted. Every unnecessary conflict consumes energy that could have been directed toward meaningful work, personal growth, or deeper relationships. The strongest individuals become selective about where they invest their attention because they know that energy, once spent cannot be recovered. True confidence is quiet. It does not demand constant recognition. It does not chase approval or become disturbed by every opposing opinion. It remains steady because it is rooted in character rather than comparison. When your sense of worth comes from within, you no longer feel compelled to defend yourself against every judgment. You recognize that some people will misunderstand you no matter how clearly you explain yourself. Some will criticize you regardless of your intentions. Others will disagree simply because their experiences have shaped them differently. Accepting this reality allows you to release the impossible task of controlling how everyone perceives you, leaving your mind free to protect what matters most, your peace. Many people spend their entire lives chasing approval without realizing it. They adjust their behavior to fit other people's expectations, change their opinions to avoid criticism, and measure their worth by the actions they receive. A compliment lifts their confidence, while a negative comment destroys it. Their emotional state rises and falls depending on how others see them. This creates a fragile foundation because anything built upon external validation can be taken away at any moment. If your confidence depends on applause, then silence will make you question yourself, and criticism will make you doubt your value. From an early age, people are often taught to seek recognition. They are praised for good grades, rewarded for achievements, and encouraged to gain approval from teachers, friends, and society. While appreciation is not harmful, problems begin when approval becomes a necessity instead of a pleasant addition to life. The mind slowly starts believing that acceptance from others determines personal value. Instead of asking whether their actions align with their principles, people begin asking whether others will approve. This subtle shift leads them away from authenticity and toward constant performance. The modern world makes this challenge even greater. Everyday people compare themselves with carefully selected images of success, beauty, wealth, and happiness. They see achievements without the struggles behind them, victories without the failures that made them possible. The result is a constant feeling that they are falling behind. They begin seeking validation through numbers, opinions, and recognition rather than through personal growth. The more they compare themselves, the more disconnected they become from their own journey. External validation is unpredictable because people themselves are unpredictable. The same person who praises you today may criticize you tomorrow. Public opinion changes quickly. Trends come and go. Expectations constantly shift. If your identity is attached to these changing conditions, your confidence will never remain stable. You will always feel the need to prove yourself again, earn another compliment, achieve another success, or receive another sign of acceptance. The cycle never truly ends because the satisfaction it provides is temporary. Real confidence is built differently. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. It grows when your actions match your values, even when nobody is watching. It develops through discipline, honesty, integrity, and consistency. These qualities cannot be given to you by another person, nor can they be taken away by criticism. They exist because of the choices you make every day. A person with strong character does not need constant reassurance because their confidence comes from knowing who they are rather than from hearing who others believe they should be. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. Some will judge your decisions without knowing your circumstances. Others will criticize you simply because your path differs from theirs. Trying to satisfy everyone is impossible because different people expect different versions of you. If you spend your life attempting to meet every expectation, you will eventually lose sight of your own purpose. Instead of living according to your principles, you begin living according to other people's opinions, and those opinions are constantly changing. Character is tested most clearly when recognition disappears. It is easy to work hard when everyone notices. It is easy to remain disciplined when praise is guaranteed. The true measure of integrity appears when nobody is watching, when there is no audience, no applause, and no reward except the quiet knowledge that you remained faithful to your values. These moments shape who you become far more than public achievements ever could. Detaching from external validation does not mean rejecting kindness or refusing appreciation. Gratitude for encouragement is natural. The difference is that appreciation becomes something you enjoy rather than something you depend upon. Compliments no longer define your identity, and criticism no longer destroys it. You become willing to learn from useful feedback without allowing harmful opinions to control your emotional state. Your focus shifts away from pleasing everyone and toward becoming someone you can genuinely respect. When your confidence is rooted in character instead of applause, you become far more resilient. Success does not make you arrogant because you know your worth was never dependent upon achievements alone. Failure does not break you because it does not change your values. Criticism becomes information rather than a personal attack, and praise becomes encouragement rather than the foundation of your identity. You stop performing for acceptance and start living with quiet conviction, guided by principles that remain steady regardless of how the world chooses to respond. Most people spend a great deal of their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They seek certainty instead of uncertainty, ease instead of challenge, and familiarity instead of growth. Whenever something difficult appears, the first instinct is often to escape it as quickly as possible. A setback feels like a sign to quit. Failure feels like proof of weakness. Rejection feels like a reason to lose confidence. Yet the greatest transformations rarely happen during moments of comfort. They happen when you are forced to face resistance, adapt to change, and continue moving despite uncertainty. Every challenge carries within it the possibility of becoming stronger, but only if you are willing to see discomfort as a teacher rather than an enemy. Discomfort is not always a signal that something is wrong. Often, it is evidence that you are stepping beyond the limits of what feels familiar. Learning a new skill is uncomfortable because your mind is stretching beyond what it already knows. Building discipline is uncomfortable because it requires choosing long-term growth over immediate pleasure. Honest self-reflection is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront habits and beliefs that no longer serve you. None of these experiences are pleasant in the moment, yet they are essential for meaningful progress. Think about how a tree grows. It does not become stronger because the weather is always calm. Its roots deepen because they must withstand storms, changing seasons, and powerful winds. If the environment offered no resistance, the tree would never develop the strength needed to survive difficult conditions. Human character develops in much the same way. Every obstacle asks something of you. It asks for patience when results are delayed. It asks for courage when fear appears. It asks for resilience when your plans fall apart. Without these moments, inner strength remains undeveloped. Many people label every inconvenience as a problem. A delayed opportunity becomes a personal injustice. Constructive criticism becomes an insult. Temporary failure becomes a permanent identity. This way of thinking creates unnecessary suffering because it focuses only on the discomfort itself rather than on the lessons hidden within it. A wiser perspective asks different questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" That single shift changes the entire meaning of adversity. Challenges stop being punishments and begin becoming opportunities for growth. Failure is one of life's greatest instructors, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood experiences. Society often celebrates success while quietly hiding the countless failures that made success possible. Every skilled artist once created poor work. Every successful entrepreneur made mistakes. Every confident speaker once struggled with fear. The difference is not that they avoided failure. The difference is that they refuse to let failure become the final chapter of their story. They allowed each setback to reveal weaknesses, improve their methods, and strengthen their determination. Discomfort also reveals the habits of your mind. When difficulties arise, your first thoughts expose the beliefs you have been carrying for years. If every obstacle immediately convinces you to give up, then the challenge has revealed an area where your mindset needs training. If criticism instantly destroys your confidence, then the discomfort has uncovered an attachment to approval. If uncertainty fills you with panic, then it has revealed a dependence on control. These discoveries are valuable because they show you exactly where growth is needed. Avoiding discomfort often creates greater suffering in the future. Avoiding difficult conversations allows misunderstandings to grow. Avoiding responsibility delays maturity. Avoiding discipline weakens self-control. Avoiding change limits potential. Temporary comfort may feel satisfying, but it frequently comes at the cost of long-term fulfillment. Growth always demands something from you. It asks for patience, effort, humility, and perseverance. There is no meaningful transformation without some degree of struggle. A disciplined person learns to welcome reasonable discomfort because they understand its purpose. They do not seek pain for its own sake, nor do they enjoy hardship simply because it is difficult. Instead, they recognize that every challenge offers an opportunity to sharpen the mind, strengthen the character, and deepen resilience. They understand that confidence is not built by avoiding difficult situations, but by facing them repeatedly until fear loses its influence. Each obstacle becomes another step in the ongoing process of becoming calmer, wiser, and more capable, allowing discomfort to transform from something that once inspired resistance into something that quietly shapes lasting strength. Inner discipline is not something that appears overnight. It is not a gift that only a few fortunate people possess, nor is it a quality reserved for those who seem naturally calm. It is developed through repeated choices made every single day. Each time you choose patience over frustration, focus over distraction, or wisdom over impulse, you strengthen your mind in ways that are not immediately visible. Just as the body becomes stronger through consistent training, rather than one intense workout, the mind becomes steady through small acts of discipline, practiced over time. The person who remains calm during life's greatest challenges is usually the one who has spent years preparing through ordinary moments. Many people wait for motivation before they begin changing themselves. They promise to become more disciplined when they feel inspired, more patient when life becomes easier, or more focused when circumstances improve. But motivation is temporary. It changes from one day to the next. Some mornings you feel determined, while other days your enthusiasm disappears. If your growth depends entirely on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline is different because it allows you to act according to your values rather than according to your emotions. It teaches you to continue moving forward even when the excitement has faded. The smallest daily actions often shape your character more than dramatic moments ever will. Choosing not to react immediately to an irritating comment may seem insignificant, but repeated hundreds of times, it changes the way your mind responds to conflict. Taking a few moments to breathe before speaking during a disagreement may feel like a minor decision, yet it slowly develops emotional control. Refusing to waste hours worrying about things beyond your control strengthens resilience little by little. These quiet victories rarely receive applause, but they gradually transform your inner world. Consistency matters more than intensity. Many people make great efforts for a few days before returning to old habits. They become extremely disciplined for a short period, expecting instant transformation. When results fail to appear quickly, they become discouraged and abandon the practice altogether. Lasting change works differently. It grows slowly, often without obvious signs at first. Just as a seed develops roots beneath the surface, before breaking through the soil. Inner discipline forms silently before becoming visible in your actions. Patience is essential because meaningful growth cannot be rushed. Daily discipline also means paying attention to the quality of your thoughts. The mind is constantly practicing something, whether you realize it or not. Every complaint strengthens the habit of negativity. Every excuse strengthens avoidance. Every unnecessary worry strengthens anxiety. In the same way, every moment of gratitude strengthens contentment. Every act of forgiveness strengthens peace. Every decision to remain present strengthens awareness. What you repeatedly think becomes the direction in which your mind naturally moves. This is why mental discipline requires careful observation of your inner dialogue. There will always be days when remaining calm feels difficult. Unexpected disappointments, stressful situations, and emotional challenges will test everything you have practiced. These moments are not signs that your discipline has failed. They are the very reason you have been training. Just as an athlete trains before entering competition, you cultivate inner stability before facing life's inevitable difficulties. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to apply what you have practiced rather than a reason to abandon it. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that discipline limits freedom. In reality, the opposite is true. A person controlled by anger is not free. A person controlled by fear is not free. A person controlled by endless distractions is not free. Freedom comes when your choices are guided by wisdom instead of impulse. The more disciplined your mind becomes, the less control external circumstances have over your emotions. You begin acting intentionally instead of automatically, responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. This process requires humility because progress is rarely perfect. Some days you will remain calm, while other days you will notice old habits returning. Rather than becoming discouraged, view these moments as reminders to continue practicing. Every setback reveals another opportunity to strengthen your awareness. Every mistake becomes another lesson in self-understanding. Instead of demanding perfection, commit yourself to consistent improvement, knowing that each disciplined choice adds another layer of stability, patience, and clarity, gradually shaping a mind that remains composed regardless of the changing conditions of the outside world. So train yourself, not for one day, not for 1 week. Train every day. When small irritations appear, practice patience. When criticism appears, practice calm. When disappointment appears, practice acceptance. When ego appears, practice humility. Little by little, your mind becomes stronger. Little by little, your peace becomes deeper. Little by little, the world loses its power to disturb you. And one day, you will notice something remarkable. The same situations that once stole your peace no longer move you. The same words that once wounded you no longer enter deeply. The same obstacles that once stopped you become part of your path. You will not be indifferent. You will be free. Train yourself to be unbothered, and you will discover a strength that no external circumstance can take away.